lot of people have been saying, well, Joe Biden, we were told constantly that we should move him to the left. We should move him left. And we've been told that constantly. And we were constantly told and berated for wanting to vote against Joe Biden. But this is going to be interesting. How in the world are we going to move him left when he goes to the right? Let's take a look.
Liberal.
By the way, shout out to Case Study QB for this video. He's doing the damn thing. Follow Case Study, by the way. You can follow Case Study QB on YouTube as well as Twitter.
Liberal Democrats are angry, that may be an understatement, at President Biden for a decision that highlights a big internal party divide over crime. The president telling Senate Democrats yesterday, Thursday, that he will not use his veto pen if Congress votes to overturn a new Washington, D.C. crime law. The president's position is now a green light for other Senate Democrats and virtually guarantees the city law will be rescinded. Its provisions include reducing mandatory minimum sentences for some crimes. Now, D.C.'s mayor opposed that, but the city council had the votes to pass the measure anyway. Now, progressives say Biden, who is on the record as a supporter of D.C. statehood, should stand with the city council even if he disagrees with its policy decisions. Our great reporters are back, and this one has progressives saying, you betrayed us.
I mean, it's not just progressives, John. It's really a widespread sentiment within the House Democratic caucus that the White House betrayed them, did not communicate this properly, and is undercutting really a core position within the party, which is to push either for D.C. statehood, for autonomy, allow D.C. to make its own laws and rules. And I just got a statement from the chairwoman of the Congressional Progressive Caucus in the House, Pramila Jayapal, who said, I'm deeply disappointed to see the president announce he will allow Congress to overturn a D.C. law for the first time in decades. This is simple. The District of Columbia must be allowed to govern itself. Now, that is on the policy side. Then the politics. There were more than 170 House Democrats who voted against this Republican effort to repeal this law. And all of a sudden, they learned yesterday Joe Biden is aligning himself with the Republican Party. So now these members, who some of them are in difficult races, difficult districts, like Abigail Spanberger from Virginia, are seen to the left of Joe Biden, have exposed themselves to Republican attacks of being soft on crime. So to a lot of Democrats I talked to this morning, they see this politics 101. And one of them said to me, I just can't trust the White House anymore.
So how does the White House answer this in the sense that those Democrats are essentially saying the president made a decision in 2024 after exposing them?
I mean, they definitely faced questions about it yesterday at the White House.
Here, you were among those asking the question, so let me stop. Let's just listen to a little bit as the press secretary tries to explain this.
The D.C. Council was put forward over the mayor's objections, and the president wants to make sure that communities, even in D.C., the Americans in D.C., feel safe. The president still thinks that D.C. should become the 51st state. That is something that he has supported for decades, not just these last couple of years. But he feels as president, he has the obligation as well to keep America's cities safe.
So they're trying to say he's not abandoning principle. He's just making a particular issue here. But to Manu's point, he's the leader of the Democratic Party. If he was going to do this, shouldn't he have done it before the House had to vote?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you have these two things clashing here, right? You have on one hand the White House saying that the president supports an autonomous government and DC's ability to self-govern. On the other hand, you also have an awareness in the White House that crime and policing is going to resonate both in the election and it has basically throughout President Biden's time in the White House. When Karine Jean-Pierre was pressed on this yesterday and pressed on these two things clashing together, she basically said that, look, the president felt that he had to step in to protect residents of D.C. Folks followed up and said, well, but D.C. Council has pushed this forward. Isn't that them self-governing, right? And look, this theme of anxiety in the White House over Republican attacks, over crime and policing, it really goes back the last 2 years. It's one of the reasons that you saw multiple speeches of the president going out and talking about making COVID funds available for police departments. It's also been followed by anger among some progressives that criminal justice reform has been put to the side. Here yesterday, you saw it relevant once again in the briefing room.
Let me posit a theory. Between the House vote, where the president had the Democrats essentially trying to protect D.C., and the president going up to Capitol Hill yesterday, we told Senate Democrats, I don't want any part of this. Chicago booted its mayor, and crime was a big issue there as well. So you can look at the New York City mayoral election. You can look at the fact that those House Republicans won in New York State. Crime was the big issue there. Look at Lori Lightfoot losing, not even making the runoff. Maybe the president saying it's time to reposition.
Well, for the president, that isn't a reposition. President Biden, as he was campaigning, President Biden all along has tried to put some distance between himself and some of the most progressive ideas on law enforcement. Now, he has made clear that he supports community policing, that he does not want this broken relationship between the police and those that they are supposed to serve and protect. But at the same time, he has been very clear that he does not support anything resembling defunding the police, that his brand is to fund the police. And his brand is to not be soft on crime. A reminder, he was the author of the crime bill.
And look, this is really the first big victory of Republicans in this new majority. This is pushed forward by the House Republican majority. They can do it under the procedures to rescind a rule, and they did this here. So that's one area where they could succeed by putting pressure on the White House.
A little taste. Every day we get closer to 2024, these things.
Yeah, so the surprise from people like Pramila Jayapal, it's like, oh, remember in Avengers Age of Ultron, when Pietro kept saying to Hawkeye, didn't I see that coming? Like, like, hold up. My thing is, like, y'all didn't see that coming. Oh my God, we're deeply disappointed. Really? Y'all didn't see him moving further right? Hold up. What did this lady say?
The fact that those House Republicans won in New York State, crime was the big issue there. You can look at Lori Lightfoot losing, not even making the runoff, and saying it's time to reposition.
Well, for the president, that isn't a reposition.
For the president, that isn't a reposition. Why? Why isn't it a reposition? She goes further.
President Biden, as he was campaigning, President Biden all along has tried to put some distance between himself and some of the most progressive ideas on law enforcement. Now,
this is what he's been. Like, what is like for me, it's like Pramila Jayapal. What is the surprise here? Why are we perplexed? Why are we shocked? Why are we flummoxed at the fact that Joe Biden is more intense on policing? What?
He has made clear that he supports community policing, that he does not want this broken relationship between the police and those that they are supposed to serve and protect.
The relationship between policing and the people that they're supposed to protect isn't broken. It's always been this way. There's nothing to break. The thing is that policing, ever since inception, was to protect capital. What were the slave patrols to do? Slave patrols were to catch slaves, bring them back, to keep capital solvent so that it can continuously make more profit. That's what it was. And keep the slaves in line so that they won't get out of hand and destroy the profit motive. That's what it was. You think that this had changed at all? Has it changed at all? In its 150, 200 years since its inception, has it changed? No. So by that very notion, for us to say that it's broken means that it had to have been beneficial for the people in the first place. Guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't. wasn't. That's the problem. The thing is that policing was never meant to actually serve the people. It was to serve profit. It was supposed to serve capital. So even then, on this lady, I would push back and say, there's nothing broken about it. It's doing what it always has been. The problem is that we're trying to remake it for something that actually benefits the people instead of profit, instead of capital. And this is who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is a cheerleader for the capitalist class, for the oppressor class.
But at the same time, he has been very clear that he does not support anything resembling defunding the police, that his brand is to fund the police, and his brand is to not be soft on crime. A reminder, he was the author of the crime bill.
And this is
And there it is, folks. There it is. Again, my question to the progressives and Camilla Jayapal, really, hell, the entire Democratic Party, to be honest with you. Why so surprised? Like, really? Y'all thought, this is the crazy part. Y'all literally thought that Joe Biden was going to go, oh, well, I guess we should partner with them to be, better for the people instead of the police so that they can actually have better, living conditions and better public safety than this occupying military force in the country that we call the police. Maybe we should do a little bit better with them. No, he did not say. Look, let me show you. Have you guys ever heard of the Ratchet effect? Have you? Okay, let me show you what it is. Let me learn you something. All right, so here's the Ratchet effect. Okay, let me blow this up for a second. Okay, it says the Ratchet effect: how you are being duped by the fake two-party system. You are literally seeing the Ratchet effect in real time. What does it say? On the left side, it says Democrats block movement back to the left. On the right, it says Republicans turn everything to the right. So everything can go left. Anything can go towards the right. But when it comes to going to the left, there's a stopgap. That's how it works. So therefore, you can never move left. You can always move right. Always. You can go further and further and further to the right. Like Diddy said, can't stop, won't stop. You can go to the right as you want. You can go fascist if you want in this country. But the minute you start to go even slightly to the left, you are stopped. You are halted. Do not go. Do not collect $200. That's how it works in the United States of America. And so when you start talking about defunding the police, which really is not an extreme position, all it really is that you're talking about divesting some money from police in order to give it to more necessary and disenfranchised groups and neighborhoods and communities in the country so that it will lower the amount of people that need policing. Because people commit crimes of opportunity, lack of opportunity, and desperation. So because of that, if you increase their opportunity and if you lessen your desperation, then guess what? The likelihood of them committing crimes goes what? Down. I'm saying it like we do in Jersey, down. So if that's the case, then guess what? The necessity for police goes what? Down. If the necessity for police goes down, then guess what? Then they don't need as much money. But here's the problem. When you're taking that money, then guess what? You go even further. You start taking money from the oligarchs. You start taking money from the people at the top, the oppressor class. And you start giving it to the poor people, which is we like to call redistribution. Guess what happens? because you're taking the thief and giving it back to the people. They don't like that. This system is like being in a mafia. You see, you have the mafia lords that own the government, right? Who's their muscle? Their muscle is the police. That's their muscle, right? So when you try to take away the funding for their muscle, they get anxious. They're like, no, we need our muscle to protect us so that these people don't come after us. And so what do? They get their lackeys to push for a continuous increase of policing. And so this is why it's possible for people like Ron DeSantis to exist in this country. Because guess what? The Ratchet effect is in full effect. He can go as far right as he can. Meanwhile, by the way, there are a lot of bills that are being passed right now that are making being transgender illegal in this country. I'll tell you to you like this. When they start coming for the transgender people, and they already are, you're next. You're next. And the thing is that this isn't necessarily about identity politics. What this is about is that they do not want workers to be more fulfilled in themselves, to have more solidarity among workers. So in order to keep a divide in place, they have to make one side of the working force hate the other side of the workforce. People who are transgender, most, if not almost all of them, are just workers. That's all we are. That's all queer people are. Most of us are just workers. A lot of us are poor. And so how do you get a division? Well, you do that. And so this is how the Ratchet effect works. Joe Biden is literally an indicator of the Ratchet effect in this country. Let me show you. I'm going to show you something else. Like this is the Ratchet effect in its stages before we even knew of the Ratchet effect. Oops. I'm going to show you guys this. Here's the Ratchet effect in all of its glory. And you have to have a foundation for an effect like that. This is from Rex Chapman. It says 84 years ago today, 20,000 Americans gathered in Madison Square Garden, February 20th, 1939, and raised Nazi salutes toward a 30-foot tall portrait of George Washington flanked by swastikas. Meanwhile, Hitler was finishing construction of his 6th concentration camp. This is what happened in this country. This is why the Ratchet effect's in place.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you see there in the middle, there's a big photo of George Washington. That is the United States of America. 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden. That's what it is. This is the basis for the Ratchet effect. Never mind the fact that we actually had Operation Paperclip that happened, where they actually took a bunch of Nazi scientists and people in the Nazi regime, brought them here in the United States and placed them strategically in different portions of our government, including NASA. And as they sat and basically embedded ourselves into our society, guess what happened? You don't think that they didn't have an influence in our government? Why do you think there are weapons going to the country that starts with a U and rhymes with propane? Unfortunately, I can't even say the name of the country. I can't even talk about it, the actual truth about what's going on from 2014 to now, and about 14,000 murders in that country, even though there's a proxy war going on, because we literally got a letter from YouTube saying that if we talk about it, then we get demonetized. So I really can't talk about it. So, yeah. You know, so still checking to see what Eddie's going to be in. Yeah, so yeah, come in, Eddie. I've been waiting for you. But yeah, so as far as the Ratchet effect is concerned, this is why this is a dangerous precedent, right? And so when people talk about Biden wanting to side with the Republicans, right? This is nothing new, right? Who did Joe Biden eulogize? His name was Strom Thurmond. He was a white supremacist, out and out, right? White supremacist. And Joe Biden was buddy-buddy with him. There are a lot of people who would say Joe Biden's actually to the right of Reagan. Like, the hell? And you mean to tell me that a lot of people are going to sit here and say that they are disappointed in Joe Biden? Look, let me share this really quick. Hey, when you're ready, just give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right. My guest is finally here.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Nah, it's all good. I know sometimes, things get lost in translation, so it's good to see you anyway.
For sure. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so one of the things that, of course you've been watching, but I was talking about what happened with Joe Biden, how he's really supporting the Republicans. And a lot of people are like a lot of the Democrats are in shock. And I'm like, what is there to be shocked about? Like, this is him. Like, have they never, like, have they met the guy?
It's
And
kind of
I just wanted, sorry, go ahead. I just wanted your Marxist analysis of this entire situation. And I also have one of the articles too that I can get into.
for sure. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's wild. Like you said, right before I hopped on the show, Joe Biden gave the eulogy at Strom Thurmond's funeral. Like, this is not somebody who's been, I mean, what people should do if they still think Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils or whatever is go back and watch the speeches Joe Biden was giving to Congress when he was arguing for these new crime laws, like the 3 strikes you're outlaw, harsher prison sentences, more strict incarceration rates and longer incarceration sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. And the way he's talking about these laws is just the same fear mongering you hear from the most right-wing bigoted Republicans. He's saying, if we don't throw these criminals in jail, then they're going to be on the street where they could hurt you or your family or your daughter, just fear mongering to try and get these harsher sentences passed. And then, he now wants to act like a progressive leftist or whatever, now that it's more people are aware of how the prison industrial complex operates. Then it's absurd because he had a role in building the prison industrial complex. So the idea that this is going to be the guy who fights it, who takes down the prison industrial complex, is laughable. Like I said, just go watch the speeches where he's arguing for harsher sentences for nonviolent offenders. And it's clear as day.
Yeah, and so I have the article here as well. This article is out of the AP. It says Biden willing to sign effort to block new DC crime laws. And it begins, it says, as President Joe Biden said Thursday, he's willing to sign the Republican-sponsored resolution blocking the new District of Columbia laws that would overhaul how the nation's capital prosecutes and punishes crime. In doing so, the president will be allowing Congress to nullify the city's laws for the first in more than 3 decades. Biden's willingness to do so, despite earlier opposition from his White House, is linked to growing concern over rising crime, both due to the nation's capital and across the U.S., and comes amid relentless criticisms from Republicans. And so the district lacks the same rights that states have to make and amend laws, while Congress has allowed the city's residents some powers of home rule. It has retained veto powers over district government actions. District residents also do not have voting members in Congress. So basically, they're trying to have new laws that are a little bit more lax as far as their intensity regarding laws. And we all know that, Washington, D.C. is basically a black city. Like, let's be real. And so, I mean, the mere fact that, you have this going on in Washington, D.C., and now they want to continuously keep these intense crime laws. You have people in Congress that are looking at Joe Biden like, what in the world are you doing? We're just like, how's that moving Biden to the left? So,
Right.
That's the way.
Right. Biden's protecting the prison industrial complex that he helped build, the legal system that functions as a dictatorship of capital that he was instrumental in, building the foundation for. Like I said, in his early years in Congress there. It's so funny how the Democrats always cave to the Republicans on like the worst stuff. You know, the Republicans are saying don't send, or a lot of Republicans are now saying, you know, let's not fund this proxy war in Ukraine. Some of them, I know it's just rhetoric from the Republican politicians. They don't actually care about working people, but they're saying, you know, use the money we're sending to Ukraine on working people. And the Democrats like, no, you Republicans are crazy. But then when the Republicans are like, okay, we need to be tougher on crime. You know, we need to boost the prison industrial complex. The Democrats are like, oh, fine. Okay, we'll give you a little bit. You know, we'll do harsher sentences or whatever. So they caved to the Republicans on the areas where the Republicans seem to be the worst. And yeah, it's like you said, it shows how laughable this idea that we're going to be able to push Biden left is. He is, you know, the establishment. He's ingrained with the Democratic political establishment. He's part of this group of politicians who serve finance capital, leading the war effort against Russia and Ukraine that's sending so many people to their deaths and wasting so many resources. So, I mean, I'm honestly not surprised to see this. It's in Joe Biden's history. I mean, the only way you'd be surprised by this, I think, is if you've been fooled by MSNBC and the boutique leftists, as our friends at RBN say, who you know, portray Biden as being some progressive, when it's simply, if you look at his record, it's just not the case.